Good to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. The conservative hecklers are out and about, people who have zero careers running judgment on my success, saying that I need the job at RT. Look, I just got tired of going to my airplane hangar. You know, I can only go to the hangar. I can only hunt and fish so much. I got a lot of tire left, and that's why I'm doing a news show on RT. You can get it on Dish or Direct, or you can get it on their website. My wife watched the show last night on the website, rt.com. So check it out, and it's worldwide, and I'm excited about it, and the conservatives can say what they want. And I think last night we proved that I'm not the voice of Vladimir Putin. There's damn good journalists at RT. It's amazing how many people are applying for jobs at RT because they know we're expanding while other news organizations are cutting back. That being said, I went home last night with a smile on my face. The first show I thought was very solid, and they will only get better. All right. Last night, I think we saw CNN prove to us that you don't need a moderator. And I don't know if the questions were a setup or whether there was spontaneity involved or what, or how they were selected. But the questions that came from the crowd were far better than anything I've seen in any debate so far this year on any of the networks. CNN did the country a favor last night by having a town hall and breaking it up, giving Bernie Sanders and then Martin O'Malley and then Hillary Clinton an opportunity, a platform to explain just who they are, where they stand on the issues, and where they want to take the country. And I don't know if anybody jumped in front of the pack or not. I thought all three of them spoke, to their strengths. Hillary Clinton, I thought, had her best night. And I thought that she did an excellent job on foreign policy. Bernie Sanders, rock solid on who he is and what he wants to do and what he believes. And Martin O'Malley is just too far behind to give any consideration at this point. The question is, when his people caucus, where are they going to go when they finally realize they're not going to win this thing? If they go to Clinton, then obviously Clinton is going to win. So I think that Sanders is going to have to peel off some of these people or have an overwhelming showing at the caucus events around Iowa next Monday night. But I tell you, CNN hit it out of the park with the way they did it. I thought Chris Cuomo did a very fine job, and the questions were solid. Now, let's get to who they are and what they said. Hillary Clinton can't have it both ways. She can't say that she voted for the war, and that's okay. I said, oh, sorry, it's okay. This was the biggest blunder in the history of the United States when it comes to military action, and we're still living with the aftermath and the turmoil of the Middle East with freedom on the march and democracy chasing without any social control going on in the Middle East and disrupting their culture. That's what I think. I think that we're still paying for the invasion of Iraq in a big, big way. So the distinctions that are being drawn from Bernie Sanders when he says he voted against the war is a judgment call. And so it is about judgment. And at the town hall last night, Senator Sanders did an excellent job, I thought, of drawing a distinction between the two candidates.
I voted against the war in Iraq. Hillary Clinton voted for the war in Iraq. I led the effort against Wall Street deregulation. See where Hillary Clinton was on this issue. On day one, I said the Keystone Pipeline is a dumb idea. Why did it take Hillary Clinton such a long time before she came into opposition?
I wish Bernie had explained why it's a dumb idea, because there's a number of things out there that he could have said. But I thought overall he did a heck of a job. Now, Hillary Clinton comes back in defense of her vote. Now, here's the key. She said on the platform last night that the most important thing that a commander-in-chief will do is make the decision of to go into war or not. So out of her own mouth, this is a huge decision when she voted for the war in Iraq and bought all the Bush propaganda that we had to go do freedom on the march, and we were 45 minutes from a mushroom cloud, which all turned out to be false. Here's her answer.
First of all, I have a much longer history than one vote, which I've said was a mistake because of the way that was done and how the Bush administration handled it. But I think the American public has seen me exercising judgment in a lot of other ways. And in fact, when that hard primary campaign was over and I went to work for President Obama and he ended up asking me to be Secretary of State, it was because he trusted my judgment. And
now, you could make the case that the reason why Barack Obama asked Hillary Clinton to be Secretary of State because there was a deal cut, because Obama knew that he couldn't get Hillary supporters. They were so pissed off she didn't get the nomination that she had to be in the mix somewhere. Now, look, let's face it. They had a knockdown drag-out in 2008, and Obama was smart enough to know, I just can't leave Hillary on the side of the road like roadkill. I got to involve her. And there's a lot of people who could be Secretary of State. Now, I'm not ripping on Clinton. I'm just pointing out the obvious that Obama was trying to win and beat John McCain in 2008. He needed all hands on deck. Now, I think that Hillary Clinton did an excellent job as Secretary of State, and I thought she did an excellent job last night on the platform explaining some of the things she had to go through as Secretary of State. But that doesn't change the fact, and in a big judgment call on a military action, she voted for conflict. She voted for the invasion of Iraq. So there is a difference between the two candidates. She was asked this by a questionnaire in the crowd last night.
I've heard from quite a few people my age that they think you're dishonest.
I've been on the front lines of change and progress since I was your age. I have been fighting to give kids and women and the people who are left out and left behind the chance to make the most out of their own lives.
I think that's a great answer. She has been on the front line. A little condescending to that guy and his age, but the fact of the matter is Hillary's been in a lot of fights for a lot of years. Now, let's go to health care. We clearly have a difference. Bernie Sanders said last night he would raise taxes on those on Wall Street. And what he's talking about is that he would have a transactions tax on anything that's speculated on Wall Street. And that would pay for health care. He said this about his health care plan.
So it's demagogic to say, oh, you're paying more in taxes. Let's also talk about we are going to eliminate private health insurance premiums and payments, not only for individuals, but for businesses as well.
Oh, wow. I'm sitting at home saying, go, Bernie, go. I can tell you that Ed Schultz Broadcasting forks out about $3,000 a month when it comes to health insurance for the folks that I work with, okay? Now, if that's eliminated, I'd be certainly glad to be paying for that when it goes to universal health care, to see my taxes go up and also to see Wall Street get taxed. Look, this is going to be a knockdown drag-out in a campaign event in Iowa yesterday. Hillary talks about how supporters are going to have to go back and forth. It's head and heart. Here it is.
They'll say, I'm undecided. I'm trying to make up my mind, and I can't decide. And sometimes I'm for you, and sometimes I'm for Senator Sanders, and then I'm for you. And I feel like a lot of the voters are like in the pinball machine. They're getting knocked around, going back and forth. But isn't our debate so much better than what the Republicans are serving up to the people of Iowa?
Yeah, but their debate's entertaining and yours isn't. I mean, does it get... I thought that was a good answer by Hillary, by the way. Isn't it great to see Cruz and Trump go back and forth? Trump is not going to back off. Trump doesn't have to take out a negative ad. He makes it genuine about where he stands with Ted Cruz, not by taking out any commercial, but by just ripping him in every interview he does in the media. And he didn't back off yesterday. Listen to this comment he made with CNN's Wolf Blitzer.
What do you have that Ted Cruz doesn't have?
Well, look, I don't want to knock anybody, but he's got a lot of problems. He's got a problem with his Canadian birth. He was born in Canada. It's a real question. And, as you know, Lawrence Tribe from Harvard and many other lawyers are saying he can't do what he's doing. He's not allowed to run. And you have some lawyers that say definitively he cannot run. That's
Is that why his numbers have gone down in Iowa?
I don't know. I think it has an impact because I think they said 36% of the people agree that he can't run for president. He was born in Canada, and he was born on Canadian soil. Now, he can run for Prime Minister of Canada, but I don't think he can. I honestly don't know if he can run. And there's a question mark. And if he ever got the nomination, the first thing that will happen, the first day, the first week, he will be sued by the Democrats. And that's going to be it. I mean, what are they going to do? Go 2 years and nobody's going to know? It would take years to go through the court system. So he should solve that problem.
See, now, if you were to take snippets of that and turn it into a 60-second ad, you'd have a hell of a commercial. But Trump says, I don't need to do that. I'll just go do an interview and let everybody know where I stand on Cruz. And he's not backing off on his finances either. Listen to this.
In addition to that, he has the Goldman Sachs problem where he borrowed a lot of money. He never said it. Then he borrowed money from Citibank. He never told anybody. He never disclosed it.
He did disclose it to one entity of the federal government, but not to another.
He didn't put it in his personal disclosure form, okay, financial disclosure form. And you got to do that. I mean, you got to do it. He's got 2 banks. But he didn't do it for a reason. He didn't do it because he doesn't want people to see that he's borrowing from banks that he's supposed to be regulating.
Now, if I was doing this interview, I'd say, well, isn't that bank fraud? You can't go into a bank and not disclose what your finances are and walk out with a loan. This is a problem for Cruz. Cruz just can't say, well, that was a clerical mistake. No, I want to know what financial institution did he go into and get a loan, if this is the case, and then not fully disclose to the bank before he got the loan. That's bank fraud, folks. Okay? You know, you have to sign down to the bottom. Everything you state on this paper is the entire truth and full disclosure. Yeah. Now, if Ted Cruz signed his name to that, you're going to tell me that he didn't know what he was doing? This guy's a Harvard graduate? I think that Trump is right. I think that Cruz has got problems. Now, are the evangelicals out in rural Iowa paying attention to this? Because they are the ones that Cruz is going to be depending on when it comes to Monday night caucusing in Iowa. And Cruz is now coming to the realization, as I've said on this production for weeks, that if Trump wins Iowa, he's going to run the table. Cruz is now talking about that.
If Donald wins Iowa, he right now has a substantial lead in New Hampshire. If he went on to win New Hampshire as well, there's a very good chance he could be unstoppable and be our nominee. So even if you're thinking about another candidate, the simple reality is there is only one campaign that can beat Trump in this state. And if conservatives simply stand up and unite, that's everything.
Yeah, he's saying, come on, you former Huckabee stand-uppers. Come on, you Santorum former stand-uppers. I'm your guy. I don't know if the math is going to work. I don't know what kind of ground game Trump has got in Iowa. A poll and a ground game are 2 different things. For more on that, let's go to Matt Schlapp. He's a chairman of the American Conservative Union. Matt, good to have you with us.
Ed, great to be with you again.
Break it down for us. What's happening in Iowa as you see Trump continuing his attacks on Cruz, Cruz making a plea to conservatives, come help me beat Trump? What's happening?
You know, I'm afraid that this show will live on and is taped because every prognostication we've all given have all been wrong. So I'm so afraid to answer these questions, Ed. But let me tell you what's happening. There is a complete shakedown of the Republican Party. I mean, all the old rules are gone. And Ted Cruz, who took on Washington, has only been in the Senate a couple years, is really the conservative standard bearer. He is the orthodox conservative. He has, Reagan conservative positions from A to Z. And then you have Donald Trump, who is even more unorthodox and is someone who conservatives really, they like what he's saying. They've got some questions about him. But he is the guy who's saying, look, I'm going to run for president in a new way. So, Ed, you're really watching the Republican Party laid bare with a lot of divisions, a lot of disagreements, and a very open and democratic process, which in the end I think will serve us well.
So why not support the guy who's leading in the polls and get the White House or attempt to get the White House and then make a course correction? I mean, wouldn't it be easier for the Republican Party to make their course correction if they've got control of the executive branch? I mean, Trump is way out ahead in all the other states where it's close as Iowa. What do you make of that?
I think if Trump wins in Iowa, I think Ted Cruz is right. If Trump wins in Iowa, I think this is over because if you look at just all the demographic information, it's very skewed social conservative, which is a very important part of the conservative coalition, and it's very skewed evangelical. And if he can, peel off a win in Iowa, I think this thing is over. So I think your point is, why do Republicans seem to be sour on Donald Trump? I guess my answer would be a lot of them are not sour on Donald Trump.
Well, what do you make of the National Review? I mean,
well, I was asked to sign that as the head of the ACU and CPAC, and I decided not to. I think it's, in my opinion, it was counterproductive to send the message that somehow Trump is unacceptable. If Trump is the nominee of this party, I'm going to be behind him 100%. And by the way, I think, Ed, I don't know if he pulls in your vote, but he's going to pull in the vote of a lot of people who wouldn't ordinarily give Republicans the time of day. And what is wrong with that?
Well, I've gone on record saying that I don't think there's any question that Trump could function as president of the United States. He knows how to manage stuff. He knows how to get stuff done. He has no problem moving incompetent people out. He's willing to do something different and try it. You can't argue with his business record. Okay, so he filed bankruptcy. A lot of successful people do by following the law. Look, he's a risk taker. And I think that having a risk taker is not all a bad thing. Now, policy-wise, when it comes to immigration, I got to hold the phone. When it comes to health care and Social Security and privatization, he says he won't do it, but there's a trust level there. So, I see Trump functioning as president. It's almost as if, when he goes out and says he could shoot somebody and still get elected, would Trump shoot somebody? No, he wouldn't. He's just being Donald, saying, "Look how far ahead I am." What do you make of that?
I wish he wouldn't have said that. I will be honest with you. I've had some feedback from some people saying, boy, that really turns me off. So, I think every once in a while, I often have said, Ed, he's like Forrest Gump in the movie. Forrest Gump is on the football team. He scores a touchdown. He gets to the end zone, but he keeps running. He runs out of the stadium. And that's what Donald Trump does. He makes a point, but he makes it so lavishly and extensively that he goes too far. One time he said, people shouldn't be speaking Spanish. Well, you know my wife, Mercy. She speaks Spanish to me usually because I've done something wrong. There's nothing wrong with that in America, to speak your native tongue in your household, and that's a good thing, and we should be accepting of those people. And I think he goes too far by saying all Muslims shouldn't be allowed in the country, but his underlying points are completely spot on with Americans, which is, you know what? We've gone a little too crazy on this multiculturalism, and we've forgotten what it means to be an American, and everybody who comes to this country should embrace America. That's his point. And when it comes to his question on Muslims, his point is really, look, why aren't we saying that people who want to harm us should never be able to come to this country? And I think that's a very fair point. So he uses this language, which I think goes too far. But I think his underlying point is connecting with people. It connects when he talks about China, when he talks about Mexico, when he talks about what happens with trade and what happens with these bad deals like the Iran nuclear deal. I think, I heard it on I went to New York yesterday and heard it on the train, just, overhearing people's conversations. I heard one guy say, you know what, I just feel like he'll cut better deals for America. That's a fair argument.
Well, it's the political correctness angle that he's taking, and it's also his business background. And I think people are willing to maybe gamble on that. And I think that no offense to any conservative out there, but let's tell it like it is. I think that the conservative movement in this country has spent so much time trying to stop Obama and not thinking about where they want to take the country, that Trump has come in and tapped into a lot of frustration because it's so wide open.
Ed, can I counter you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you're not coming after me, but when you do come after me, I always enjoy it, just so you know. But but I think the key is this, which is the Republican Party. There are actually more conservatives in this country than there are Republicans. All the demographic information shows that. And when our Republican leadership told the base of the party, hey, yes, Obama's been elected, just sit tight for 8 years. We're not going to do much, but sit tight, and after 8 years, we'll win the White House, and then we'll be able to kind of push our agenda again. I just think that's unacceptable to them. And I think it would have been unacceptable to Democrats if they had been told that by their leaders. I think in a democracy, both sides have to fight each other, and they have to disagree, and they have to take each other on. And I think that the conservative movement has been patient and sat back and watched why they've been told don't fight here and don't fight there. And I think that's why you're seeing them fight so hard and say, we need a guy like Ted Cruz, or we need a guy like Donald Trump.
But, Matt, the conservative action has been inaction to block. I mean, you can't deny the record number of filibusters.
I agree. And I think we need a positive agenda. It's not enough for us to go out there and say Obamacare is bad. What the hell are you going to do for these families? You have to have an alternative. You have to have ideas.
I agree. Matt, I want to get you on the tube. We got to talk it over. Good to have you with us.
Great to be with you again, Ed.
You bet. Matt Schlapp, Chairman, American Conservative Union. When we come back, Dan Kildee, Congressman from Michigan, talking about Flint. And there are other parts of the country now that are reporting lead in the water and iron and contaminated water. Oh, look, we got it too. What's happening in America? Of course, the conservatives want to get rid of the Environmental Protection Agency, and that, of course, is a big fight coming up in Washington. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz news and commentary. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, WeGotEd.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Well, it's the never-ending story of Michigan. It's just one chapter after another. Interesting dynamic playing out in Michigan is the Attorney General Schultz, I believe his name is. He doesn't like the governor at all. I mean, he doesn't like this Snyder guy. So this is going to be a very interesting investigation, and to see where all the responsibility falls. And, of course, Snyder is out there making the case, hey, look, it wasn't me, it was other people. Listen to this garbage.
Yeah, in terms of the change itself, it was a broader effort in terms of saying they wanted to change their water system to a new water authority. And it was actually voted for by the city council, and it was ratified by the emergency manager. It was a 7-1 vote of the city council to leave the Detroit water system. The emergency manager ratified it after they made that vote.
And that was a decision to save money, I think, right, Governor?
Well, again, it would also reduce their cost in some ways, but I believe they wanted their independence, and it was a county-wide decision.
That is the biggest bunch of garbage. Those city council members knew that if they didn't go along and get along, they would have been black sheeped right out of the family, and they knew damn well that the emergency manager had the final executive authority on what was going to do. That was window dressing. Dan Kildee's a congressman from Michigan. He joins us. He represents Flint. Dan, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Ed. It's good to be back on.
All right. Is Snyder whitewashing this? Is he window dressing this? Where's the fault in your opinion?
Well, first of all, the way he described the decision obfuscates the reality. True, the city and the county have been working to create their own water authority for a long time. That has nothing to do with the decision that was made by his emergency manager to use the Flint River as the temporary water source until the new water authority is in place.
Does the Attorney General know that? Does the AG who's investigating, does he know that?
Yes. I mean, this is the thing that's bothersome about this is that the facts are fairly well known on the ground in Michigan, but the governor seems to be really focused on his legacy, and this is really a PR challenge for him. He's not looking at it as a public health challenge. This is a public relations problem, and they are spinning this idea that the decision that the city council voted on, of course they had no authority, that was window dressing, but the decision itself to go to the Karagandhi, this new water authority, has nothing to do with the decision that his state-appointed emergency manager made to temporarily use the Flint River as the temporary water source until the new water source is in place. The state emergency manager could simply have negotiated with the other state emergency manager that was running the city of Detroit to have a temporary deal using Detroit water until the new water authority is done. It's so frustrating because this is a way for them to try to draw other people in to say somebody else was responsible. No one else was responsible.
Okay, and did they throw away the state health department, or what exactly what the title is of the agency that oversees this kind of stuff, the quality of water? Did they just disregard what state agencies had to say?
Well, the state environmental quality agency itself is part of the problem. They were ignoring warnings of water difficulties. So it was this philosophy of government that the governor has in place, that dollars and cents come before people, that caused them to make these decisions. And then they ignored the state agency for environmental quality, ignored warnings coming from the EPA, from private citizens, from researchers, from pediatricians, until this became a national story. And
where's the restitution here, Congressman?
Pardon me?
Where's the restitution here?
It has to come in a couple of forms. One, obviously getting clean, drinkable water is first. But it has to, first of all, the state needs to pay back the people of Flint for the water bills that they've been paying for water they couldn't drink, and in fact, water that poisoned them. But the big cost and the big responsibility is to get the kids in Flint who've had lead exposure long-term educational, behavioral support, early childhood education, mentoring, after-school programming, the kind of opportunity that will help them overcome developmental challenges associated with lead. That's a moral obligation now that I think the state has to pay for. The state has a $575 million budget surplus. They committed $28 million to help Flint. That's less than half the amount of money that people in Flint paid for water that poisoned them.
That is amazing. I haven't heard that number at all on that. So the surplus of the state is in the millions, and they want to fork out a fraction to Flint to make right on this.
Right.
Wow.
They view it as a PR problem. The governor now, through his private 501c4 corporate-funded entity, is hiring public relations firms to help him. So what you're going to see now is a whole lot of columns and new sort of spin trying to obfuscate responsibility, trying to blame the EPA, trying to blame the local drain commissioner. This is all a concerted effort funded by dark money to help restore the reputation to the governor. Who cares about the governor's reputation? He should be focused on the health of kids in Flint, not his own reputation, for God's sake.
Take us to the fight in Washington on EPA. What's going to unfold here? We did a story last night about how in other parts of the country they're finding out that they have high levels of contamination, and in some cases more than Flint. What do you make of that? Where's this fight going to go?
Well, I think it has to go to much greater transparency. Where I think the EPA is responsible is in many ways doing what the Republicans have been trying to do for years, and that is weaken the EPA, take away their authority, take away their resources. And they've done that. But now I think what we have to have is a much more transparent process. When the EPA, for example, finds that there are problems, they need to do more than just tell the agency that has prime control, the local state agency. They need to shout from the mountaintop that there's problems in the water. The only way we're going to deal with these water problems, and Flint is an extreme example, is for the public to become aware of what's going on. And that was what was missing for so long. They hid this problem.
Yeah.
And we can't let that happen.
Congressman Dan Kildee, great work on the Iranian hostage situation.
Oh, thank you.
I know you've been working on it for a long time, and a successful conclusion. Good to you. We'll see you on the tube one of these days. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ed.
Dan Kildee, Congressman from Michigan. He represents Flint. We'll have more with him on the News with Ed Schultz on RT America. Now this.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Oh, yeah. Like us on Facebook, and I'm back on Twitter. Back on the tube, back on Twitter. Hashtag News with Ed Schultz. We're back on the tube tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. Get it on Dish and Direct and on the web, RT.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.